Everyone, and thanks for joining us on our show with Dr. Michael Leitman. Hello, Dr. Leitman. Dr. Leitman. Hello, everyone. Oren, hello, Nitza Mazoz. Nitza, hello. And today we'd like to talk about the shift from an economic to a social crisis. We'd love to talk about other things, but we have to prepare ourselves for the things that are coming and see what's the solution. Be with us. Nitza, please. Nitza. Yeah, since the COVID crisis, since it came to our life, we went through many things. And on this show, we'd like to take a look at society, at the Israeli society, and at society as a whole, all around the world, that's going through a certain process. We see that at first, the Israeli public were they really felt solidarity. We were all together. There was this feeling of that people listened. They were tolerant. We obeyed the different orders that we got, instructions. This was the general atmosphere in Israel and around the world, that we're all fighting this one virus. And as time went by, our society that at first seemed united, it seems as though it's starting to fall apart. The unity is dissipating. Economic problems started. There are different questions that rise in every person. What's going to happen? Who's going to compensate me for what I've lost? Who's going to care for me? How will I get what I deserve in order to be able to keep them up? In order to be able to survive? We see that everyone is becoming more and more concerned with themselves. People are kind of becoming more introverted in regard to caring for themselves, their immediate families, and we're in a stage where there's already intolerance. People no longer obey the rules, instructions. There's a feeling that everyone's taking the law into their own hands because they know better, because nothing can help. Nothing will help him. And from there, the way to violence and unpleasant processes is pretty short. We also have a promo. We see what's going on in the United States. And therefore, today we'd really like to talk about our social structure, the Israeli social structure. How do you see this process that the Israeli society is going through? Dr. Leitman, you see things for what they are? Because we always see that at first, like those that founded the kibbutzes, different movements. At first, they were always idealists, and gradually, our ego that exists in everyone awakens and starts growing. And then all of these movements that are at first pretty, they talk about connection and listening and contributing, mutual help and so on. It all comes to an end pretty quickly. And the ego actually takes over all of the good relations that at first we thought that we will be able to build, to have them as our ideal. So these are natural things, and this is also what happens now. It just shows us that we're still in our egoistic nature, that's taking these things for itself. Nitza, why is society such a sensitive thing? Because we see that everything threatens to take it apart, Dr. Leitman, because society consists of individualists, egoists, and therefore you don't have like this one uniform social texture that keeps everything together. No, you don't have that. And so immediately, when there is some kind of egoistic obstruction that always exists, but when it grows and shows itself, then everyone turns to that. Nitsa, what holds this social texture, structure at the moment? We're still connected. What keeps us together the way you see things? Dr. Laitman, several things. Not knowing what the future holds, fear of having serious problems, disasters in the family and in the country, if we're talking about ourselves. The state of Israel has several more problems and fears and social anxieties of different kinds. In addition, and the unknown thing itself, which is the virus. We don't know it, we don't understand it. We see from day to day that it's becoming more and more cunning and unknown. And therefore, no one's jumping. And besides that, it's a worldwide, international problem that has to do with countries, scientists, doctors, governments, everyone. It affects everyone personally and all of us in general, and families and governments. In short, here we're in a state, in a situation, like we're all connected under one problem like never before. And therefore, this unique state actually stabilizes things. Nitsa. So on the one hand, it stabilizes us. The fear, the uncertainty stabilizes us in a certain way as a society, but alongside with this, we see that the implications that it brings with it are starting to take us apart from the inside. Now, before the corona came, we had other threats that threatened our society that are more ideological, political, different things of that kind. Is there a difference between a threat of one kind and a threat of another kind, socially wise, that might take our society apart from the inside? Dr. Laitman. All the rest of the problems, we know how to deal with them, even though that they are more serious problems in the meantime. Whereas the coronavirus, because it belongs to everyone. Therefore, we cannot do many actions with it. But actually, I don't think that there's a kind of fear or anything. I see how people go to different parties, go to the sea, to the beach, to the park, everywhere. They don't care about nothing. As if, to me, it won't happen. And so, even though that it's the coronavirus and that it is a worldwide blow, a global blow, precisely because of that, no one takes it seriously personally. And I think that the fear that people feel today transitioned a long time from the health aspect to the economic aspect. A normal person is supposed to be concerned with what will he feed his family with this month and the next, and that the situation isn't getting any better, and we don't see anything better in the future, and more businesses are collapsing and people aren't going back to work, that we thought, okay, we were locked at home for a certain period of time, but afterwards everything will go back to normal. But you see that, no, it's not happening. And if at first we had this feeling like we have some common problem, like at time of war, today no more. Today the war is between different forces in society. Now, I don't want to take anyone's side. We're not politicians. We don't want to grade the government or the public or the self-employed or anyone else. Doesn't matter. All of us are everything. We want to understand the serious distress that we find ourselves in. And why does it bring us to fight each other? When there's a common problem and everyone feels that we're in it together, let's think about it together and we'll find a way out. But here, and this is what's frightening, we see that the Israeli society is starting to be torn in different directions, reaching an inner explosion. And this is even more pressuring because for sure we won't reach a solution this way. So, from this place, how do you see things, and especially what can you offer in order to take society a step forward? Dr. Lightman, I have a solution. Only that the smart Jewish mind, as you put it, won't want it. And the solution is simple. The coronavirus wants just one thing: for us to relate to it, to treat it as a problem, as a disease, as a problem that is common for the entire Jewish people and all of humanity as a whole. And if it's really a global blow, can you imagine? 8 billion people have one problem. So what does this problem actually tells us? What does it say? It says, I want for you to stand against me, all of you together. All of you together, because I am about to attack you. Respond together, all of you. This is what the corona says. And therefore, I think that here actually we have a very good opportunity. The people of Israel have a very good opportunity to show its historic destiny. That it has to bring change, this big change that has to be brought to mankind, and all shall know me from small to great. My home shall be called a home of prayer to all nations. That the Jewish people, the people of Israel, exist in order to unite all nations into a single nation. And so what's the solution? Dr. Lightman, the solution is that we have to explain to the entire world, to all of humanity, that the only solution is connection. And connection meaning what? Dr. Lightman, for us to start understanding that we are all a part of one nation. And meaning what? Dr. Lightman, that there is just one nation all around the world consisting of, suppose, 8 billion people. And let's take the Israeli society as micro-humanity. Instead of 8 billion, 8 million. Even here, we can't feel that we're one nation. For a simple reason, maybe the economic crisis due to the corona, maybe it didn't do anything to you, but it shattered me. I have nothing with what to feed my children with, so we're no longer one nation now. That's the problem today, so what do we do? Dr. Lightman, what we do is, first of all, what you said about the people of Israel, that it is a small part, let it be a small part. That it's like a mini humanity. But first of all, we have to explain to the people of Israel what is their destiny historically, geographically, psychologically. What do we have to do in relation to humanity, in relation to nature? Why do we have to be united? It also says about this in the Torah, by the way. Still, 50% of this nation, they respect what it says in the Torah. They're, so to speak, believers. And so we have to show everyone that we're headed toward connection. All in economically wise connection. What does that mean? How will that ensure that tomorrow I'll have what to feed my family with? Suppose you weren't hit by the crisis, but I was. Dr. Leitman, we have to make sure that everyone, no matter what happens, will have how to provide for their family. Oh, and so that's advancement already. So you're saying that the country has to give every citizen this basic level of confidence. Doesn't matter who he was. Was he self-employed? Was he employed by someone? Is he a millionaire? No matter who and what, you're a part of this nation. We're taking upon ourselves a collective responsibility that you will be able to meet, provide for your basic needs. That's the first thing. Okay, what now? Nitsa, I wanted to ask, this is something that shifts responsibility to the government, suppose. I, as a citizen, am I also responsible in any way? To feel like what you just explained, that maybe I wasn't harmed or hurt by the crisis, but my neighbor was. How am I responsible for Oren, for example? Dr. Leitman, personally, not. It should be on the governmental level, political level, that they provide, they make sure that every household has what they need, so and so much electricity, water, food, this, that. This is something that we provide to every family. Nitsa, so how will the connection that you mentioned, how will it be expressed in terms of the connection? Dr. Leitman, we're not talking about connection right now. We're talking about our basic needs because, as it says in the Torah, no bread, no flour, no Torah. First of all, we have to have bread. We need to have our basic needs met. Nitsa, okay. So, we're not struggling to survive anymore. We get into our bank account. Dr. Light, no, not into your bank account. Every family has they're delivered with a basket with their basic needs, food for a week. Nitsa. So why not give them money and go buy? Dr. Leitman, I don't believe in that. Of course, you can do it through supermarkets with some kind of card, some kind of something. That you get there, you come there, and you have like stamps or something, I don't know, something like that. Nitsa, but then it really solves my problem in terms of food. What about accommodation? What about my ability to pay my bills? Dr. Leitman, gradually, you can't fix things from one day to the next, but at least there's a law that for a year you can't throw your tenant out. We can arrange these things. Nitsa, to protect him, for him not to find himself on the street. Dr. Leitman, true, you have different hotels, all those offices that are standing empty. Turn all these things into apartments, and that's it. Nitsa, after we straighten these things out, everyone has their basic needs, no one's hungry, and the serious fear that the public has now calms down. What's the next stage? Dr. Leitman, not the next stage. Along with this, we open an educational system that now we have to start working on educating the coronavirus generation. How do we bring them to a state where they will know what is the meaning of life, how to live, how to survive, what does nature want of us? Nature doesn't want to put us on a diet. with a can of something a week. But nature wants for us to unite because in our connection, we start working. We start treating each other above our ego. And this way, we start coming closer to being above our nature, to a higher nature, to bestow love, connection, mutual consideration. Oh, and what can bring love in such an explosive situation where everyone feels that they were screwed, that they're treated unfairly? In such a reality, how can you pour love into that? Dr. Lightman, no one pours love into that, and don't catch me on a specific word. It's all a process. It's all a process that we have to take people through because we have no choice. No one wants it, no one's happy about it, but we're learning about the process that nature is opening up to us and is taking us through from one state to the next. Oren, nature wants to take us from what to what state in the corona generation. Dr. Lightman, I'll tell you. From the state of egoistic to altruistic relations. Oh, and what is this and what is that? Dr. Lightman, that everyone thinks only to his own benefit and to the detriment of others. And the altruistic state is the opposite. Oh, and the opposite how? Dr. Lightman, that I think to the benefit of others. Oh, and why? Dr. Lightman, because by that, our entire society is becoming similar to nature, and therefore it is treated favorably by nature on all levels. Humanity is treated favorably by nature on all levels. Oh, and so the essence of the transition, the education that the Corona generation needs, you also named it. That's beautiful. Corona generation needs a new education that will take each of us as an individual from an egocentric perception, thinking only what do I deserve, to how can I benefit others. If I understand this is the essence of the change, I asked why. Why will this happen? You said because this will make people similar to nature. What does that mean? And where in nature did you see that some individual thinks to the benefit of others? Dr. Lightman, no, we never saw something like this. We saw to the contrary. All in nature is survival. Dr. Lightman, all the more everyone thinks how to harm others, how to eat them up. Oh, and yeah, that's how nature is built. I don't think that for them it's on the emotional level, that's the food chain. Dr. Lightman, true. But today we're already starting today to see things differently. Nature disagrees with us remaining egoists, but starts breaking our character, the relations between us, and wants for us to start treating each other the opposite way, differently. And unless we start treating each other favorably, then what we'll get is suffering, blows, problems, troubles, really on a regular basis. Oh, and there's something like a trick here instilled in the process. Dr. Leitman, it's not a trick. It's simply a kind of inversion, a flip, that if up until now we've developed egoistically, and it was clear to us, this is how things were clear to us, because it suits everyone's nature. And therefore, what we built is everything egoistically, and this is how we treated each other, and everyone treated others this way. In short, it was all clear. Whereas now, we will have to treat each other differently. The problem is that we're not suited to this change. We're not suited to it. So how will I know how to relate to these things? We have to know how to activate integral education for all of us to learn what does nature want of us in this new era, and how will we start building ourselves and society a new human society, global human society. Owen, we have 1.5 minutes left, so I want to ask. Previously you said nature doesn't want for us to go on a diet with, as a basket with food, like you give poor people that are starving or something. This isn't what nature is directing us toward. What is it? Dr. Lightman, nature is directing us toward taking this carton that we have outside our door, bring it in, be happy with what we got, and not want more. Oh, and so nature is directing us toward a diet, Dr. Lightman. No, once you agree to it, you're not on a diet anymore. A diet is where you feel that you're restricted, and nature wants for you to feel that you're not restricted, but that you really don't want more. You don't need more. What you got is enough for you. Oh, and it sounds terrible, I have to tell you, Dr. Lightman. Why? Oh, and this is what society is going to develop to, that you give a person a piece of bread and he says, thank you, Dr. Lightman. No. Suppose your carton, the carton that you got, is a magical one. You put your hand in and you say, I want to take out, I don't know, salmon fish. You take out salmon fish. I want to take out a bottle of champagne. You take out a bottle of champagne. And it's like in the fairy tales, Dr. Lightman. No, not fairy tales. What society will determine that this is a normal basket of basic groceries for everyone. And suppose you like, I don't know, baked foods, and I like spicy foods and whatever. So this is how we're going to do it. And what can save the Israeli people or the Jewish people or the Israeli public from a social crisis? Dr. Lightman, if we'll get the correct education, we won't have a social crisis. If we don't, we'll evolve in a terrible way from crisis to crisis. And thank you very much. Till next time, all the best.